I'm also still making a cup of coffee here, so if you hear weird sounds, don't worry about it.
um, that's, yeah, it's fine. It's weird because like everyone's like, "Oh, Iceland town." I was like, "Nah, he's on the best coast. It's fine." So what's going on? How you doing?
I'm doing pretty good, man. I'm busy building new stuff, working a lot, trying to get things in time for this release in November.
Yeah, like almost everything they announced, right, was like November, December a release. Like, all right,
Yeah, soon. And we were trying to hide some of it before Vegas too, so scrambling to implement now that everybody knows about all of it.
so are you like finally recovered from Vegas? Are you
Not really, dude.
not
Really
really?
did really did a number on me this year. It's no joke. I had uh I had more work than usual this Vegas. That might be part of it. I also might have caught something from someone. I don't know. But I've been like I've been alternating. One day I sleep 14 hours, like I'm in some kind of you know like have a coma or something, and then
Yeah.
the next day I like can't sleep and I'm up all night feeling like I should be at Dre's or whatever. And it's been alternating like that since I got back. But
Oh man.
totally worth.
Yeah.
How are you recovering?
I'm pretty good now. I streamed the Tuesday. Like I flew back Monday. I streamed Tuesday because I wanted to be like, hey, fresh, Vegas hype, and it was not good. Like my stream was like the quality of content was just not good. Like the first thing I lost, I took a Cinnaball, dual prop Cinnaball out, and I guess I didn't realize. So I went to a gate camp. I got stuck in like Ranker or something, and I went to crash gate. And I'm in a dual prop. I'm like, okay, cool. Like I get scrammed. I'm like 3,500 off the gate. I'm like, cool. AB. Like where the fuck's the AB? It was in my cargo. I didn't fit the AB. I've my Cinnaball loss just has an empty mid slot. It's like, oh my god, I'm not. I'm
Sounds
not
about right.
ready. Like, and then I take
Yeah.
out another Cinnaball. I'm like, okay, mulligan. This time we'll fit one. And I die to the Crimson Harvest site. They don't point you, so I could have warped off, but my brain was just not there. It was just, it was not there. So I'm down like two Cinnaballs, and I have zero, just just absolute garbage. So, but I think now I'm fine. But it was definitely not a good day. um, so that was rough. Yeah, Brain was still in Vegas. It was hard, man. Like, it was a lot of fun this year. Like last year was my first year, so this year like I was a lot less like shock and awe, and a lot more mellow, I guess. Um,
You went to everything though, right? You were at golf and you were at
I didn't go to golf. I regret not going to golf.
golf was solid, dude.
Dude,
Although
I
you
heard.
probably heard since you were around Corky, you probably heard it was like the best thing that ever happened in the world because he
Yeah,
had such a good time.
yeah, yeah. I mean, everything with Cork is the best thing that happens in the world.
Yeah, yeah.
But like, so I didn't go. I was like, okay, like it's 2 hours, and it's like, maybe I'll just chill it at 35, and it'll be fun. Like it'll be cool. Like there'll be people there. Like there was no one there.
Oh, really?
There was
Yeah,
like
I guess that most of the folks that are usually at 35 probably either went to golf or had their own dinners and stuff. I feel like a lot of people that skip the Friday, it's because they have alliance dinners and stuff like that.
yeah, like last year was the pub crawl.
Uh-huh.
So like, and we crashed the pub crawl. Like we didn't like,
Yeah.
but we just ended up going and sitting down, and no one asked us to leave. Um, and so I was like,
Yeah,
oh,
which
it'll be
yeah.
kind of the same thing. I'm like, no, it wasn't the same thing. I super regretted not going to golf. Um, but yeah, I went to like almost every panel. Well, most panels, like a lot of stuff like a round table overlaps with the panel and stuff. So,
Yeah, that's cool. How did you actually? I never heard anyone. I was like busy doing my own stuff, but did you go to the either the other dev talks, the um, activity tracker one and the events one?
no.
Okay.
I think those might have either overlapped with. Were those early or were those like overlapping with
I know at
anything?
least one of them was early. One of them was really brutal. It was like Sunday morning or something.
Oh,
So
no.
one of them was like out of the question for
No.
most people because it was such a rough time. But I don't know
So-
when the event one was, and I really wanted to see that actually, but I had press stuff scheduled most of the time that the other talks were, so I couldn't go to any of them.
We're not just doing this for
there's
money. We're doing it for a
Where's
shitload of
Chat?
money.
Yeah.
I miss you, Cork. It's been hard adjusting to life without you. Although it's easier to get more sleep.
Yeah, I bet. Oh my god. And it's easier to eat less food when Cork's not here.
Don't mess around with eating.
Dude, Monday or the Sunday
Yeah,
night
the
dinner.
pasta?
Dude.
Yeah.
I had it like Sunday like late night, and then like Monday morning I woke up, and before I take the Uber, I'm like trying to eat, and I'm like, no, I just can't. I just can't anymore. There was like 2.5 whole containers left in the.
Yeah, dude. Actually, I'm a little disappointed because I wanted to take a little bit of that stuff home, and because I knew Sunday would be a total shit show, and that it'd be nice when I woke up Monday to have some delicious pasta to eat.
Yeah.
But it worked out fine because there was hardly time for eating anything anyway. I had to run to the airport.
I was like, bro, you could like, I would have gladly given you some, or like taken the Uber to the hotel and dropped off some.
By the way, for both of you, but especially for Corky, I woke up Monday morning and looked over, and Antiquarian was just completely passed out still. It was like 10:45, just out cold, and his shuttle left at 10:45 to the airport. I was like, dude, I think you're late, and he just like shot out of bed and just ran around the room screaming for like 15 minutes while he got ready, and then he had to race in a cab to catch up to the rest of the crew to go back to Iceland. It was perfect because he's so uptight and responsible in general, and Corky broke him, and
Corky broke him.
yeah, it felt good.
Oh man. Oh, that was good. I loved like antiquarian in Ellis Island when you guys came for karaoke. He was just like trolling that dude, like
Yeah. I realized after spending more time with him this trip that he just trolls naturally. Like, I don't even know if he's trying to. He's just so awkward. Like, in a way, I mean, he's obviously like, great and smart, but he just says the weirdest stuff and like totally unpredictable how he's going to interact with people.
I loved it. I asked him if he wanted to chug a beer with me on stream, like when he was doing interviews, and he's like, I'm working. I was like, bro, so like doesn't answer my question, and he decided against.
Are you talking about on the official stream?
Yeah.
We've had such a long and interesting journey as a company with drinking on the stream. There's like in the old days, they were like basically like doing hard drugs on stream, and then we had like this period of becoming more responsible where they're like, all right, no more, debauchery in public. We're gonna chill out and never, and always be sober and have sunlight and stuff. And then the crew that was really into that on the marketing side, they left. So now we're like sliding back towards drugs.
They left.
So I don't know whether they'd have been okay with that or not. But I do know that Antiquarian leans towards professionalism, so it would have been a tough sell for him probably.
What do you think about Cork's hat game versus Antiquarians?
I mean, I was there when they were talking about it, and Antiquarian was definitely impressed. He was really shown up, I think, by Corky having his name on all his hats. That really went up.
That was.
Which
I bet that was surprising for Auntie.
yeah, he was like, he's not used to having somebody else be even weirder about hats than he is. So I think he was reevaluating. He's like, can I step it up even more? You know?
I think, yeah. Cork says he'll get him a Corky hat. Anyway,
That's rad. He'd be stoked, I'm sure.
I wanted Cork's hat that he gives him to have Cork on the front though, like just so it's everyone knows.
Yeah, if it was tasteful, he'd be down. I bet.
Yeah, of course. I mean, I don't think Cork can make a hat that's not tasteful.
No.
I think it's like against his religion or something. So yeah, Vegas was awesome. And are you going to Toronto?
I don't know. I haven't heard. I mean, did they even say when it's gonna be?
I don't know. Cork, did they say when it's gonna be? Because Cork's like.
I feel like they didn't. I don't even think they gave like a general timing. So it'll depend a lot on that, and
Cork says,
we'll see. I super hope so. That'd be really fun. I mean, I always want to go to any event I can. Events are just the best thing ever. So whenever they let me, basically, I go.
Cork says you are going because he said so. And there's a lot more people are talking about like the Northwest meetups. So
yeah, we got to make that happen. Actually, this Vegas was really cool. I talked to like 3 or 4 different people who are in the Northwest, and several of them are part of really small but regular meetups. Like there's a group that does a meet in Seattle every month, and apparently there's a group in like kind of the south end of Portland, like just down I-5 a bit, that does a meetup every month. Each one has like 10 dudes, but if we kind of got those groups together and then advertised a bit, I bet we could get like 50 people or something for a bar meet. That'd be super fun.
Man, that'd be crazy. That'd be cool for.
I'm sure it's possible. Actually before I moved to Iceland, I just tried to like wrangle one together real quick, and it was easy to get 30 or 40 people. We just went to like Lucky Lab in Portland for an evening. It's just a matter of getting the word out. If I can get some help from the community team or something, and just be like, we're doing a bar meet.
Like, as far as like Stream Fleet goes, like I am 100% sure that Raiden and the rest of Stream Fleet would be like making all of the effort to make sure that a meetup like that happens. And
and I'm sure I could get a couple like EVE Online tweets or something. What we should probably do is I should get in touch. I need to follow up. There's this one guy, I can't remember his name, but really cool guy I met who's part of the Portland group. I should just get in touch with those groups, figure out something that works for them, and then just pen it in, and then just get the word out as much as possible. I bet we'd get tons of folks. It'd be really fun.
Yeah, that would be.
Need to make that happen.
And like with a smaller thing like that, and when everyone's more local, you can do like kind of more regularly. Like it doesn't have to be like a once a year thing.
Right. Yeah.
And it doesn't have to be like it's not like a 3-day thing, right? It's like, let's go out.
Yeah. Just a night, just an evening, like once every month or two or something. Yeah. Hang out.
That'd be really cool. I could drive up for that, or I could fly up for that. I'm not driving.
Where are you at?
I'm in
California,
Bay Area.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm flying. I'm not driving. Yeah, that would be really cool. So if you live in the north, we have Diablo Chango says he lives in the Northwest, so he's down. And then Cork would of course fly out because it doesn't really matter where it is.
Oh God.
Jesus.
I don't know about having Cork ruin my own city for me. That sounds like, how do I get away eventually if he comes here? Nice, dude. Salem. I got family in Salem.
Oh man, I had to call. So I had to call my. I had to give Cork cash for Uber because my card wasn't going through on Uber. So I gave.
Yeah,
cash.
that dude's also such a mooch. I know what you mean.
Yeah, so I gave him cash on Monday when I was leaving. I was like, later, dude, and we get like halfway there on the Uber, and the ride's canceled. Like I know that the driver didn't cancel because I'm looking at him, and I know Cork is passed out, so I know he didn't cancel it. So It's like what happened? I ended up calling, I called Cork to make sure, and he's like, no, I was asleep. So I don't know, but I ended up giving the driver like $5, and it took me the rest of the way to the airport. It's like, what the? I was super nervous because I was like, I can't re-request the ride.
Oh yeah.
Oh, yeah, Ryan. Ryan's in Phoenix. No one wants to go to Phoenix, Ryan. It's like 150 degrees in my mind.
I mean, in the winter,
It's probably
we're
like
always
20
up here
degrees.
talking about how to escape winter up here. It'd be cool to have a southern U.S. or like, we should do like a Mexico meet in the winter. That'd be sweet. Like Cuba.
Okay, so like Cork is coming to that one, and I'm not sure that like any of us survive Cork coming to Cancun.
Cancun, dude.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
You
any of
online
us-
spring break.
Like none of us make it back. Like I'm not sure any of us make it back.
Yeah, Mike. Long time ago, CCP did a like an employee trip to Mexico. Wasn't a player event, but
Was that the one where they filmed the one of the permanent band videos?
that sounds right. It was a really long time ago. They did Mexico before I was at the company. I think it was probably 7 years ago or something like that.
Yeah, keep clicking. Yeah. I remember watching that, and like everyone's in swimwear. And I was like,
Yeah.
Did you guys fly out, or did you guys like dress in swimwear in Iceland?
Oh, don't ruin it, Van Van. I think of Cancun as like as it was on MTV like 22 years ago, and I don't want to change my opinion.
TRL or whatever.
Yeah, exactly. Live at spring break. I want to go there and hear Blink 182 play while there's like whipped cream on everybody. Is that possible?
I'm dying.
Exactly. All the small things.
Oh my god. Oh, I think man, I think we could stay and talk here for a while. I don't really want to
just covering everything about TRL and Blink 182
Yeah.
20 years ago.
like Rise. What did you do today?
Who needs to build those Triglavian ships anyway? Let's just
Yeah.
talk about the 80s.
Yeah, when someone checks
90s.
me, hey, how's the progress going on the new trig ships? Well, I did a Q&A on a stream, and
Yeah, it lasted 12 hours, so we're delaying them.
I didn't get anything done, and then I get blamed because it gets pushed back.
It'll happen, Corcus. Just wait. It'll happen.
Oh, cool. That's a good way to settle
Talking
it.
about the
So he
hack.
sent me a DM, and I thought he said hick trig ship, and I was like, who the fuck cares about ramping damage on a tackle ship?
I just want to collapse wormholes in a trig ship. Yeah.
So
No, but a hack fits super well.
yeah, like the
Hack
range
and assault
bonus and
frigate
stuff.
both. They would
Yeah.
both.
That'd
I
be
mean, yeah, it was kind of tricky trying to figure out what to do originally, because especially if you knew the prices are going to be this high, like they don't make tons of sense as they are Tech 1, because they really need the extra resists. Like the extra resists fits so well with a ship that can brawl. And, you know, they need to stay in a long time to get the guns ramped up, and right now they're a little too flimsy. So, but Tech, if we can get to Tech 2 ones, I think they'll be like quite nasty, and people actually want the disintegrators nerfed a bit or something eventually. But
because the Tech 2 Logi ship will be the first Tech 2, right?
yeah.
That'll be interesting. Like,
Yeah, and that actually came from kind of a, well, I don't know. I don't need to get into it, but we decided to do that one first for some weird reasons. It's weird how sometimes, not weird like bad, but I don't know. It was easier because of some constraints in dev. But I think tons of Tech 2 variations could work. I mean, they could work for everything we have already, except maybe the Leshak.
oh, okay, you said Tech 2 variants except for the Leshak? Because, like...
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. You could do, what would you do? Like a Marauder? I guess, no, that would be crap. I don't know. It probably doesn't make any sense to do a Leshak, but the Frigg and the Cruiser you could certainly do.
Yeah.
Asia, it depends on exactly how you're talking about pronouncing it, but almost certainly it's Icelandic. They say yao 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 like more yao yao yao, but if it gets Americanized a bit, it's probably more like yeah yeah yeah, and that's like the most common like validating what the other person's saying. And then there's like yeah yeah, which is a little different, but it's like a transition. Like if you're talking about something and then the conversation sort of slows down, you say yeah yeah, and then everybody like gets up and does something else. So could be either of those.
Oh. How long were you in Iceland for?
4 years almost.
So I did want you to tell the story, if you're comfortable telling the story of the Abyssal, the dev trying out Abyssal stuff.
I'm still scared about people finding it, and I still don't really know what I want the moral of the story to be. So like, everyone I told the story to is like, you should change the story a little bit so that it has a clear lesson, because it actually is just kind of brutal and feels sort of, I don't know.
So maybe next
not
time,
a letdown, but like, I don't know what you should learn from it.
That even devs go through this.
Okay, I'll try to tell a version of it. I'm gonna change the names and ships and locations have been changed to protect the real people in the story. But I can try. I don't know. I mean, basically, when we were developing Abyssal Dead Space, we had a new programmer. He wasn't a super hardcore EVE player. He played a little bit, but he wasn't like super into it. But he was working on Abyssal Dead Space stuff, and he got kind of pumped about the feature. So when we released, like, he'd practiced some during testing on CC, but when we released, he got really into it and started playing it a lot. And he's super competitive. He's like a guy who like can't handle not being the best. He like quit Hearthstone because he didn't feel like he had the time to grind to legend, because he could only get to like rank 2 with the amount of time he had, and he's just like a guy who really needs to be the best at everything. So he played for a little bit, just in Tech 1 stuff, and then he's like, fuck this, I want to be winning. I want to be doing like the hardest stuff there is. So he flexed a bunch of ISK and bought an expensive ship and went into higher tiers, and he lost it to the NPCs, and he was super mad. But he went and studied more after. He watched like more videos and read some of Setonia shit or whatever. And so then he went and bought another ship, and it was going pretty well. And then he lost again. I don't remember. He lost 2 big ships to NPCs, and he was like kind of at the edge of his wits from that. But he decided to try one more time, and it was finally going really well. He'd made back like quite a bit of his ISK, and then he got a run where he had like a really good, it was, this is pretty soon after it released, so prices were still crazy high, even for stuff like blueprints, I think. So he came out with like 900 mil in loot, and then when he came out, there was let's just say there was a faction battleship waiting at his exit, and this was when there's still suspect flag, and tackled him and killed him, and he was like losing his mind. He's like, CCP Rise, this is the dumbest design I've ever seen. I can't believe I'm just sitting here trying to make my money back, and someone else can just come along and kill me. And me and Fozzie are laughing at him. I mean, it was hilarious because he had been in all the meetings with both the CSM and internally where we talked about why we needed the suspect flag and like why it was set up this way and how dangerous it would be and what you could do about it. But he was still just like totally losing his mind. And so then we went and looked up the guy who killed him, and this guy it was his first PvP kill. The guy that killed him was actually a Care Bear who'd lost like a bunch of blinged out PvE ships himself, both in high sec and in low sec, and he never killed anyone, and he just saw the trace in local, knew what was going on, decided to look him up, and killed him, which is just the funniest thing. We're like, Dev's having like, he's losing his mind being so upset about it. Probably this PvEer has just got like the most extreme shakes and has had like the best EVE experience of his life. But then Fozzie and I also noticed that this means the dude that killed him is probably not all that good. So then we ran some level 4s in the same system in a hick, and he came and tackled us, and we killed his faction battleship.
But I mean, it was cool.
And
like,
so I don't know. It's like it was a full Eve story all around. Like some good learning and progression for this noob dev trying to figure out how to beat the feature, and then this like super high stakes moment for the 2 PvEers who are fighting it out, and then some veteran PvPers come in and ruin everyone's day.
and that's Eve. Like,
That's Eve. Yeah, it was. It felt like sort of the full
circle
Eve experience in one kind of set of events.
So, I mean, I love
that's
the
why
story.
that's Lizard. That's why I'm nervous to tell it. It makes me sad for the little new ones too. We took his moment. It's like super Eve to do it, but I mean,
like, I think, I don't know, I love the story just because what you said, it has like the full circle of Eve. Like dude gets mad that he dies, so he ships to PvP to kill another PvEer, and then he kills him, and then like dies too, and then it feels like that's his new niche. But
yeah, I would like to hear the story keep going. I don't want to go look, Mike Ezra. I'm nervous about that, so I don't want to go look if he's still playing. I'm just gonna assume he is, and that he's now on a lifelong quest to get revenge on me. Yeah. And someday I'll get my comeuppance. That's what I'm hoping is happening.
Someday he's gonna roll an alt, and he's it's gonna be great, and we'll tell that story then too.
Yeah. I hope so.
I hope so. So, do you want to move into some questions? I had like tons of questions written in, so I don't know if we'll get through them all, because we're pretty much already at the time when I kind of originally wanted to wrap up, but story.
I can do like half an hour more or something like that.
Okay.
Then
cool.
I should probably get back to working.
Working. Yeah. So, this is from me. Did you know small disintegrator ammo is 50 M3 a stack?
15?
50.
Oh, kind of. I know that.
Okay.
But I've kind of had it in my back of my head to change it for quite a while, and I haven't.
Because I fit up my second Demivic ever yesterday, and I was like, wow, I have no room for cat boosters.
Yeah, I know, it's pretty annoying. I need to change it. We actually changed it once already. It was even bigger at the start, and we lowered it, but it's still way too big. Even in the VedMac, it's pretty annoying. You can't bring you can't comfortably bring several different types. Need to go do that.
And chat, you're welcome to throw in questions. I have questions that people wrote in before, so I'm just gonna kind of keep rapid firing through as many as I can for people. So a while ago, one of the devs solicited feedback from Reddit about adding the ability to preheat modules during gate cloak. Is that first question? Is that in kind of your wheelhouse? And two, is the idea still on the table? Was it shut down?
No, it doesn't sound fail. That sounds fine to me. It's sort of in my wheelhouse. That actually is a kind of good example of a change that is, I think, hard to make often because its implementation cost is like the design cost, or like the decision to do it is pretty simple probably, but actually making it happen, it's like kind of simple, but not. I can't do it myself. Like I would need a programmer. Right. And there'd be some, I assume it's not a big deal, but there'd be some investigation on that side. And so that kind of stuff, like, it's the kind of thing that CCP Karker could do if there was spare time, but it's not something,
I'm sure spare time,
that it's not something I can just like hear and then do the next day without some investment. So then that means that it's on like a list of other stuff that the programmers like spending their time on. And Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly, my guys are right. Like the backlog and like priority list for someone like Karker is overwhelming. So adding more stuff to it when it's something that's a sort of low impact is always, I don't know. It's at least like more effort than it seems like it should be.
Right. No, I
But
completely get you. Because like people are saying you can switch modes in a T3D under Gate Cloak, but I'm sure that's just that's different. Was it Dev that asked for feedback? Yeah. So it was Jazz's question, Jascodius. But yeah, it's something like, oh, I really want as well, just for overheating prop mods in
yeah,
in Gate Cloak.
yeah, no, it totally makes sense to me.
So okay, so it's still possible. It's just finding dev time to, or finding programmer time really to see like how much resources it'll take.
Yeah, I mean, it's just a matter of someone, I don't know, like, just a matter of getting it to the top of a backlog somehow.
Yeah.
I mean, I actually hadn't heard about it before, so I don't know if it's something that's already on someone's radar, like, as a team, like, if they've already got it on a backlog somewhere, but, I don't know, could try and poke at it.
Just be like, yo, is this somewhere on the deep list of, I know you're busy, Karker, please. Don't no hand me, just the no hand wave. So okay. Regarding future and Navy this is Navy battleship rebalance. I have a question that goes along with this.
Yeah.
What are performance targets for these hull types? What should a battleship be able to do? Are there any Tech 1 or Navy battleships on Tranquility right now that are close to performing where you want the others to be?
Are there any Navy battleships that are performing where we want them to be?
T1 or Navy.
I mean, that's a tough question. That kind of falls under a lot of what I was talking about on stage, that I'm just not feeling super satisfied with our kind of ways of evaluating and explaining whether or not a ship's in a place we want it to be.
Mm-hmm.
There certainly are battleships that are like, you know, not like at the bottom of the barrel for all ships overall. Like the class, I can try and pull this up really quick actually and look. Hold on. Another thing is we still have issues where a lot of our internal metrics are screwed up by certain things like smart bombing. Smart bombing and structure shooting are still hard for us to work around for a lot of our metrics for looking at ship performance. Sorry, I'm trying to sort through metrics while I talk. So like in the last, I mean, this is flawed, but like technically battleships actually right now have the most damage of all classes on the server. It goes like for the last 5 days, it goes battleship, dreadnought, cruiser, tech 3 cruiser, stealth bomber, combat battle cruiser, super carrier, blah blah blah. But a lot of that battleship damage is not really in fights. It's either people smart bombing each other while they rat, or on gates, or it's people shooting structures.
Yeah,
so
perimeter.
Actually, no, this is on ship kill mail, so it's not structure. This probably does have structures.
Because perimeter just got bashed. A bunch of structures got bashed in perimeter, and that's all battleships, like Megathrons in HiSec.
Yeah, right. But I mean, the thing that stands out a ton is that battleships have some of the lowest performers. Like no matter what metric you look at internally, like some of the Navy battleships and some of the normal Tech 1 battleships even are among like the least popular and least used, which to me just means there's opportunity. Like I think something that's tempting to do in balance is to look at the top end of the charts always, but the problem with that is that then you just end up wanting to nerf everything. Like you look at the top, I'm like, oh, the Gila needs nerf and the Loki needs a nerf, and the you know, you just go through the stuff that's like at the top end and want to bring it down, which is fine. It's like an efficient way to get balance a lot of the time. But what's a lot more fun, I think, is to look at the stuff that's at the very bottom and look for opportunities to just build new stuff there, basically. And there's a lot of opportunity with battleships to do that, because there's several of them that are seeing almost no activity at all.
Right. And you just did a change with how the LP Navy BS works, right? With the
just made it so that you can get BPCs out of the faction warfare stores instead of just the built ships, which mainly just means it's easier to move them around. So you can like, you're getting them for the same price, but now you can, like fleet Foons and fleet Geddons or Navy Geddons, you can actually just get the BPs out and easily move them to wherever you want to use them instead of having to get built ships and then fly them where you want to use them. So it just helps the market basically fill in. So now if people want to run fleet Foon fleets, they can build those and get them set up much more easily.
Gotcha. Sir Dantos is pretty happy about that. Are there any weapon systems at any size that you feel are overperforming or underperforming right now?
Are there any what?
Weapon systems at any size that are overperforming or underperforming?
I mean, drones across the board are overperforming. Like, drones are a pretty important component of like all the ships that are doing really well, and they're obviously dominant in PvE just across the board. As far as like other systems, there's specific cases, I think, like certain environments, like how rails with Feroxes are super strong, and like you don't see a lot of mid-range laser comps right now, which is too bad. But most of those are a lot more. I think most of those situations are much more nuanced. I think the same, like torpedoes and cruise missiles have been in like not an amazing place for quite a while. So there certainly are some, but I think the only one that stands out as a system, like across the board, is drones. I think most of the others, just in terms of like hybrids versus missiles versus projectile versus lasers, there are places where they're strong. By the way, Karker just told me she was the one, she tweeted asking about preheating for cloaks, and she said on Twitter she got kind of mixed replies, but apparently she's interested in it, and I'm like gonna put my thumbs up as much as that helps, but it's on her and her team.
I wonder, I'm assuming I have Karker followed. Please, this does not be a good look. Oh my god, I don't. That's not a good look. Cool. So, tweet at Karker, Gate Cloak. Yes. So,
like, I was just looking at more stats, by the way, just for some like perspective. This is just jumps, which is, now after my presentation, I've talked a lot about how jumps is not perfect and there's issues with it. But within battleships, you look at like the top 4 battleships, you have between 150,000 and 300,000 jumps in the last 30 days. So try to keep that in your head, 150,000 to 300,000 or so, which is like Rattlesnake, Macariel, Dominic's Raven.
Okay.
And then you have at least 10 battleships that are below 30,000 jumps in that time. So they're doing a tenth of the most popular battleship.
Right.
And some of them, like for instance the Tempest Fleet issue, the Armageddon Navy issue, the Megathron Navy issue, they're below 10,000. So they're like more like a 30th of the total. So that's just to me, there's some, we could do something cool here because these ships are just not getting used very much.
As long as the Megathron, the Navy Megathron is bad, like it's just strictly better, right? It has like 1 extra high, I think, and same bonuses, 1 extra high, more like base stats.
I think it's definitely something that is an issue, like usually with the Navy ships, at least they are better, they're just strictly better, but it's only by this super small margin, but obviously the cost is quite a bit higher. And that varies depending on which ship and how the LP store is doing at that time, but they're just like not quite cost efficient. You'd rather just spend half the money and fly a normal Tempest or whatever, because it's not that much worse. So actually, Tempest is really interesting because the normal Tempest does more damage than the TFI. But
do you think it's, well, I guess the Tempest is needs kind of like a rebalancing or reworking? Do you think the answer is more like is buffing those ships or just straight lowering the cost, or both? I guess.
Actually, what I would really like to do, and this is the reason we held off because it's more complicated, but I don't want to try and. I think if we take all these ships and just try and like make them about as good or about as cost efficient as the ships that are popular, there will be new losers. Whether it's these ships aren't buffed enough and they stay losers, or I mean, it could be better than this, but I really like what we did with hacks and assault frigates, where we said let's stop trying to get them to compete in this same space with, for instance, with Tech 3 destroyers, a world where like Tech 3 destroyers and assault frigates don't have anything super unique about them except for the mode switching, but they're supposed to all be viable. It's just very hard because it's so cluttered. So find a way to move them to the side. Find a way to say this is a distinct thing that the class does that gets them to stand out. I think there's really room to do that for fleet and navy ships. For example, actually, Suetonia, and I can't remember who he was working with, but they were putting together a proposal for navy cruisers to specifically be abyss ships. Like do something to set them to the side of other ships in that space, like pirate faction cruisers, hacks, all the stuff that they're competing with in there, and say they're specifically for this different role that makes them distinct. And find a way to express that through some unique bonuses or mechanics or whatever. And I really like that idea, and I like the idea of applying that to as many places as we can, especially when there's really a big pile of stuff competing for the same role.
No, yeah, I mean, hacks and assault frigs like fit in real nicely now. Yeah,
certainly a lot better.
Yeah. Students also asked if there are any plans to make pirate destroyers now that we have trade.
No plans right now. Most of it, I think, who knows? But for the time in front of us, I can see. I think precursor stuff is more likely to take up new ship energy than pirate destroyers or something like that. But there was also, like, we talked a lot about in Vegas. There's tons of cool ideas for new Tech 2 classes, like for new combat roles, like a mobile Cyno inhibitor ship, or what was the other one we were talking about?
The BC thing.
Yeah, but I don't know, there are some other ideas, and we're always gonna have to like keep reevaluating that. But precursor stuff's super exciting because we can do things that are a lot more different. We have other ideas for weapon mechanics and other types of new mechanics that we could put on precursor ships rather than just filling up more of the kind of existing space.
So to go along with the drone, you said the drone is by far the like PvE used system, right?
Yeah.
With a Abyssal Dead Space, it seemed like you were trying to prevent that from happening, or at least reduce the popularity.
Yeah, a little bit, but
it didn't end up happening.
Not really. I mean, I think we had hoped to find more ways to keep that balance than we did by the time we released. And it's a tough thing to figure out, and now it's even tougher because there's a lot of people that have invested a ton in figuring out and building up, ships to run sites and helas, and if we go and strip all that out or change it a lot, it's going to be pretty painful, and we don't really want to turn people off to the feature. So I don't know, we need to keep looking at it for sure, but it's not simple.
Right.
Figure out the best way to go about that. Yeah. It'd be nice to just have balance. I mean, we talked about really like kind of straightforward stuff that's I don't know how to put it, but it feels like kind of crude or like heavy-handed. Like, for instance, we could give each weather type, like each filament type could have just a big ass bonus to a certain weapon system. So like lasers do 30% more damage in
EM or
Firestorm, and blasters do 30% more damage in kinetic or whatever, and just force the weapon systems by the weather type to get balance. But like, it's so clumsy.
Right.
It'd be nice to find something a little more elegant. I'd like if drones were just in like a little bit more reasonable place relative to other stuff, and then that they were just there was pressure from the content to make you do a good job flying it, so that it wasn't also the laziest way to do it.
Yeah.
But it's tough to figure that out.
Pretty lazy. All right. General thoughts on the cruiser or bigger meta in factional warfare. Pretty much the lack of a cruiser or bigger meta. Does CCP look at this granular ship performance, or is it a byproduct of the larger game?
I almost followed that.
So it's mainly like the cruiser and factional warfare, like cruisers and up aren't really used like, like medium plexes. I don't know, like even flying around factional warfare for me, like mediums are empty. It's pretty much all frig desi, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think kind of the way I would feel like answering that is, for one, I don't like have a super great hand on the pulse of faction warfare, so I would need to like investigate more to like answer super well. I would say that I think it's cool that frigs and destroyers have a really specific place in faction warfare, that like getting some really small scale frig v frig and combinations of frig and destroyer fights in faction warfare, that's cool because that doesn't really happen anywhere else. So that's good that there is a place for it. And then the last thing I'd say is that obviously faction warfare needs work. Like it'd be nice if some of the stuff that's working at frig and destroyer level worked at both cruiser size and at battleship size. And it'd also just be nice if more of, if we could just go in and clean up a lot of the issues with faction warfare. We know they're there. Faction warfare is one of those kind of feature areas that's been just barely not into like a big expansion cycle of work for probably 3 years now. The team actually got running on it, on doing like a revamp, and then had to get pulled off to work on something else. So it's always just right there. And hopefully soon we get to actually work on it. I know that since the community's been more and more focused on the issues there, that always helps. Like if people are, I don't know, feeling, more and more motivated to draw attention to it and get work on it, and the issues are becoming clearer. Like I think people have gotten better and better at kind of articulating what's wrong with faction warfare, and that helps as well because it makes it easier to actually go and do work.
You just told the community to just scream louder, right?
No, I mean it's not. I think it screamed better. Like
okay, there you go.
Screaming louder isn't like, it matters, but that's not the best policy. What's cool is when there's like real thought and good articulate stuff about what's wrong and what can be improved. And there's been, over the last year, there's been several really good write-ups about what the issues are in faction warfare, and that helps. It doesn't mean it's going to get done. It doesn't mean that it's like that we just do whatever has the best write-ups or anything like that. But I just, comparing to a few years ago when we were thinking about working on it, I feel like now if we started, we'd have a better starting point, which is cool. And the next time that it comes up that we could maybe do that, that would help. So
what you're saying is delete capitals from LoSec. That's I had
LoSec's so weird. LoSec's got like an identity crisis that we need to try and figure out someday.
Let's see. I had one. I have a few more. I'll keep to just probably one more. What's CCP's attitude towards hull resist bonuses, their influence on doctrine selection? Thinking specifically of like MOAs.
Yeah, I think they're fine. I mean, we know they're super powerful. A while back, we tuned them from 5% per level down to 4% per level because they were so kind of dominant and required as even you got to like mid-scale. But I don't know, there's a lot of ships now, like we've gotten, between adding ancillary boosters, doing normal ship rebalance, and tuning down the resist bonuses, now a lot of the active bonus stuff is like at least on the same playing field, which is cool. Like, it's still not gonna be the large scale. You know, you're not gonna have, like, at least you probably shouldn't have Brutix fleets that are, you know, 150 people strong, because the resistance bonuses are just better at scale, and that's okay. It's like, I think we're fine with having some really distinct advantages at smaller scales and some really distinct advantages at larger scales, and resists are one of the clearest ones that obviously is really powerful at larger scales, and I don't think we're worried about how that sits right now.
Did you read Suetonio's write-up on Capital?
The carrier one?
Yeah.
I started it.
It's a lot.
Yeah.
It's a lot. But it's good. I mean,
it was interesting reading responses to that.
Man.
It's quite divisive.
Yeah, it's kind of like the when everyone said no, CCP announced no jump fatigue at Vegas, and we were like, oh, okay, cool. And then like we went to Reddit, and everyone was like, no, you guys are dumb. So
I mean, what was interesting reading the thread on Suetonius thing is just that people's expectations for capitals are super different. That came out in a lot of my conversations at Vegas as well. Like, I think there's a group of folks that, you know, that think of capital sort of as just another ship that should just have a distinct role and should be balanced with everything else and should fall in like this healthy ecosystem where there's a bunch of ships that are all sort of equally valuable. And then there's also a group of people who think of capitals as like really badass aspirational things that should just own. and that makes sense because they're expensive and they take, you know, planning and infrastructure and all this stuff to get ready, and we want both of those things to be true, and I think that's why we've had a tough time finding like a super healthy spot for them. Is we like the last big round of rebalance for capitals that like introduced the new fighter mechanics and Haas and all that. A big part of it was the fact that no one felt satisfied that capitals were delivering in this aspirational way, that no one felt like there was a lot of talk then that you work up to finally getting your first super cap and you get it and you just feel disappointed because it doesn't really do anything special and you're better off just flying in a ball of archons or even in battleships. And so it was about pushing towards delivering on that big aspirational, like, it's so cool that I have one, it's so powerful, I can fight 20 people, I feel really cool, which is an important part of it. But then you swing the other way then, which is that now there isn't space for enough ship variety and they feel oppressive to fight against, and that's compounded if they're too easy to get, and you know, it's hard to accomplish both, I think.
Right. So I guess we'll kind of wrap up here. What's the most exciting thing for you that you're working on right now? Like, what's, like, when you get into it, you're like, okay, like, let me figure this out. Because I'm assuming, like, figuring stuff out like that is kind of enjoyable for you, like, when you figure out the direction you're going to take something.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, for the stuff that's coming out right now, probably just new ships. I found this year actually that I've I spent like 2 or 3 years working mostly on like the clone states and on skill trading and on reworking Plex, and this year I've come back to ships a lot and I'm like, oh yeah, I really like spaceships. It's really fun to just work on spaceship stuff. So working on even just the balance stuff, like actually this fax work, which has been really hard for me to find a good place and like do a good job communicating and working with all the different like feedback sources, it's been like a pain in the ass in a way, but I really like it. I really like just trying to figure out spaceship stuff. So
that's awesome.
The new ships and the balance work are really the thing I'm most excited about, even though they're like the least glamorous in a way.
So last thing, I mentioned to you about a Reddit post about a Kill 2 video from a long time ago. I found the Reddit post, so in case you want to go back, and it's cool. It's funny because I forgot I had EC300s in it, which you can go ahead and delete, and that's fine. And
nothing worse than listening to myself talk, so I probably won't actually. We'll just mute it.
Yeah, so for those who don't know, Rise, his in-game name was Kill2, and then he used to do some commentary videos. and just one was posted to Reddit about a month ago. So I was kind of cool because I've only been playing about 2.5 years, so I didn't, I came in like.
Oh really?
Yeah. I've only been playing since like pretty much just before Citadels came out.
Oh, funny. You should go back and listen to like my early podcasts, or even find. Have you seen like my old like hype PvP videos
No.
rather than these commentary ones? Hold on, let me see if I can
Is
find
it on that same channel?
Actually no, most of them aren't, because when I started making videos, we had to upload them to e-files. There was no YouTube yet.
Jesus. So how do
yeah, it was.
how do I find
it was
these?
weird times. Yeah, like this shit. This isn't even the oldest one, but can I link stuff in your chat?
Yeah, hold on. Let me. There you go.
Like this stuff. This is even like, this is the 7th video. There's 7 before this that have like progressively worse production quality.
That's good. I will definitely be watching these. I loved watching old YouTube videos. Like I'd watch clips from another streamer, Zal Amadeus. I watched clips from his stream. Yeah, I really liked being able to see like what the game looked like, and I don't know, just if anything was different from looking at your like the Ham Drake video you put. I'm like, wow, that looks like exactly like a fight that I've had. Like, oh, we had a chance for this fight to be good, and then he dropped EC 300s, and it was not good.
Yeah, I used to be really mad about ECM. When I got hired, I was like, that's mission number 1. Delete ECM. And then it took almost 6 years for me to do anything, and I definitely didn't delete it.
Definitely didn't delete it. All right, I will.
Yeah, you couldn't. Do you know you didn't used to be able to group guns?
No, I didn't know you couldn't group guns until I watched your video. I was like, why does he not have? I'm like, I'm assuming.
It was like an important skill to be able to like F1 to F8 really like quickly.
Jesus.
And it was always in some of my, I don't know if it's anywhere in this video that I linked, but when I go back and watch some of the old ones, you had to like, when you had to switch ammo types, like with crystals, you had to like deactivate
everything.
and switch crystals and reactivate.
Yeah.
It was very high APM, okay? It was like, exactly, you're a pianist.
And you had to do that for like all 7 guns or whatever?
Yeah.
Oh my god, that sounds
Exactly.
terrible. I
That
don't
always
wanna...
made me feel, I was like, my opponents are never doing it this well. I'm so good at this. It's like,
So
I'm getting
good.
defeated by keeping my guns active.
That's good. Cool. Any last closing words? I don't want to keep you too long. We're just at an hour mark.
Not really. Just Corky, I love you.
Me too.
It's really nice to have everybody hanging out. And we'll watch for that Portland meet. That'd be good.
Thank you very much for carrying on. It was a blast hanging out with you in Vegas.
Yeah, dude.
And
We can do these every once in a while.
Yeah, for sure.
It's nice to get on it.
Yeah, I just
Chat about work instead of actually working now and then.
Yeah, exactly. And I think I want to get Lebowski on next. He's he hasn't replied to my email yet though. But him and Avalon are both semi-confirmed. So
Cool.
Yeah.
Those are both chill dudes.
Yeah. Avalon's in here pretty regularly with his foodie Discord. I love it. All right, guys. Thank you so much for hanging out. Everyone, give a emote.
They're already being super sweet. Don't worry about it.
Yeah.
There, you
they're
got very.
They're not super sweet to me.
Very nice viewers. All right, take it easy, man.
Yeah.
Talk soon.